ask you a question. How do you feel about this? If you answered any of the following, have I got a game for you? It's new, it's cheap, it's simple, it's so much fun. It also has the inexplicable strapline of Manifest Your Destiny, which is one word away from making this a fun family game about ethno-nationalist colonialism. And it's not that at all, which is good, because that's actually an inexplicably crowded marketplace. A better strapline for this game would have been Manifest a Good Time, because my city isn't the most fun or the most simple, but it is the most fun, simple game I've played in years. I would be excited at the prospect of teaching this game to a table full of 9-year-olds, all the way through to a table of maybe 62-year-olds. Seriously, we talk a lot in this hobby about minimum age for games. We don't talk a lot about maximum age. To some extent, I teach board games for a living, and I'm absolutely powerless in the face of a disinterested dad. Ooh, and did I mention my city is also a legacy game involving sealed envelopes and stickers, and you get to open those envelopes and stick those stickers? We'll get to this stuff later. It's weird how exciting this stuff is. I think there must be a part of us all that just wants to work in a post office. So how do you play? At the start of my city, everyone receives a private board, which is confusingly their city, and a matching set of buildings in 3 different colours. The game then starts with someone flipping a card off the top of this deck, and everyone has to take that building and place it somewhere on their board. Ooh, this is going to be one of those reviews that's hard to film because the game is so exciting to play that my brain just goes, play the game, which isn't, I'm trying to do a review right now, brain. The game then ends when this deck runs out, and you'll have had the opportunity to place each building once. The first building you place must go next to the river, and after that, buildings must touch other buildings. And nothing can ever be built crossing the river, or on a mountain, or a forest. And oh no! Towards the end of your first 15-minute game, you'll start running out of space and watch in horror as your city in my city becomes a Wikipedia reference image for absolutely goofing it. Each time a building comes off the deck that you either can't fit onto your board or don't want to place on your board, no, but canny little choice there. You're going to lower your score by 1 point, and then at the end of the game, you're also going to lower your score by 1 point for every green space still showing, and by another point for every rock still showing. What is this, Quins? Just some kind of game for losers where you can only lose points? No way. You can gain points for each tree you haven't accidentally flattened by a building. And your biggest connected group of each colour of buildings score points for each building. So, my city is simply a game of cards coming off this deck, and then everyone groans or cheers as you get a small building or a big one, and then you decide where and how you're going to socket that building into your city, and it's so satisfying. And also wondering whether to, oh God, you don't want to have to incorporate this building into your city, your sweet little city. That's like being asked to incorporate a horseshoe into a chocolate cake. So you're always wondering whether it would be smarter to flip that over and, lose a point. The other rule you have to learn in my city is... that's the whole game. I did that in absolutely no time. I've got the whole day left. Simple as these rules may be, my city plays like a bag of Skittles for your brain. Players are able to gorge themselves on all these sugary little choices, one after another, after another, after another, and who cares if it's not nutritionally complete? Because you've got Skittles, and all is right with the world, and there's nothing that any of the other players can do to ruin your fun, or even slow the game down. My city is never difficult enough to stress you out, and yet it's also never easy enough for you to stop thinking. While the game ultimately wants you to tuck your buildings together like spoons at the buffet of a cuddling convention, if you only do that, you're drastically limiting your options of where you can put the next piece if it's an awkward one. So it's wise to perhaps spend this turn jumping over the river or reaching across your board so that whatever the game surprises you with next, you're more likely to find a home for it. Do you know, this game makes me want to sing a little song about my city. My city is a town where the grass is green and the sky is...
Can I ask what you doing outside that house?
I'm actually filming a board game review.
Is that essential work?
You know, I've been thinking about that a lot myself, and the answer might surprise you. What a knob. The point is that My City is the kind of game that you could play over and over and over and over. Which is good, because that's exactly what you'll be doing. You see, what I've taught you so far is the mode of My City known as the Eternal Game, which, again, sounds bizarrely like ethno-nationalism. But if we just take the player board and flip it over, we will have the beginnings of the mode of My City known as a legacy game, in which you and your friends are going to be stringing your games of My City together in a giant campaign, every 3 episodes opening a new chapter envelope, like some kind of cross between Tetris and the Iliad. When you and your friends start the campaign, and about once every hour after that, you'll be unsealing a new envelope containing some quantity of new rules, new components, new buildings, new cards, new ways to score, and best of all, new stickers for you to apply to your board. Winning individual games of My City will now see you notching these little circles, and at the end of the campaign, whoever has the most of these filled will be the overall winner. And this performs something like a magic trick on the experience of playing My City. Every individual game, every individual move suddenly becomes that much more exciting. Not like Skittles in a bag, but now like pearls on a string. And even more deliciously, the winners of games have to permanently sticker more obstacles onto their boards, forever making the game harder, while players who lost or came last will get to sticker more point-scoring opportunities onto their board. So the players in My City who are better at the game, or just parents playing with their kids, will find that the campaign sort of increases the gear on this metaphorical bicycle you're riding, and suddenly good players are having to think harder and harder and harder to stay in the lead. I don't want to spoil any of the surprises in these little envelopes, but I'm going to. I'm going to spoil one of the surprises. So in chapter 2, the churches, it contains, you'll never guess, churches, although the churches aren't like shaped like crosses, and they're also a raunchy shade of purple. So I'm pretty sure these are just homes that are calling themselves churches for tax purposes. So in the game that adds churches, everyone is going to receive 3 churches of their very own that you also are going to have to build during the course of the round, with 3 new cards getting added to the deck. And worse, you don't have the option of not building them when they come up. Obviously, that sends an immediate current of electricity around the table because you've all just played a few games of My City, and it's clear there's not enough room on this board. But it's not all bad news. Every church will give you 3 extra points if you manage to connect it to 3 different colours of buildings. I'm spoiling the churches here because they're demonstrative of how the changes in these envelopes affect My City. You have this initial moment of surprise, which is fun. Then you have to think, well, how should this change how I play the game, which is fun. And then as players have to place churches for the first time, you get a bit of fun discussion around the table as you're all discussing how annoying they are. And then My City adds a fabulous wrinkle. In the very first game you play with churches, whoever wins or comes in the middle of the pack or loses receives another church, but these churches are different. Whoever wins this game, yeah, they get to fill in those notches and get closer to winning the campaign, but they also will have to play with this bloated block of a church forever. Oh, who's this calling? It's My City! Let's see what they have to say.
We're calling to inform you that you're going to be fined for breaking the lockdown with regards to COVID-19.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Chapter 2, the churches, is actually maybe a little more chunky and toy-like than the new mechanics introduced in all these other envelopes. The other envelopes are perhaps something more important. They are clever. And they are well balanced, which perhaps shouldn't be a surprise because the designer of My City is none other than Dr. Rainer Knizia, who you might remember from such glowing Shut Up and Sit Down reviews as Tigris and Euphrates, Ra, and The Quest for El Dorado. My City easily earns the prestigious Shut Up and Sit Down recommend seal because while it is not as exciting as other games we've reviewed that get the seal, I'll say what I said at the start of the review, it is also so simple and so cheap. Is My City a perfect game? No, it's not. The rules in the manual are fine. I don't have a problem with those. But the rules in the envelopes, I would have liked them to be absolutely watertight, because what they're doing is something that's quite demanding, especially for a family game. They're adding rules, removing rules, adding different consequences to every player after every game. And these rules are not watertight. I had a couple of head-scratching moments where I was confused as to what to do, so that's not perfect. But my real criticism of My City is that this could have been one of the best board games ever made. We've got a fantastic, simple design supported by fantastic legacy elements, and the theme and the art design is just so... I mean, I'm torn between the words dull and dismal. Playing My City at times, it's like going to see a band and the lead guitar and the vocalist are just leaving everything on the stage, and the keyboard player is like texting on the phone and the drummer hasn't slept in a couple days. So disappointing. I mean, it's a very minor thing that didn't really interfere with my enjoyment, but it could have been so much better. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take 5 minutes to play a game of My City, and we're going to flash up some themes that would have been better for this game on the screen. Because this game really is just putting things on a grid where you want some things to be next to other things. So let's take it away.